It's labeled chat, and you can use that feature for typing greetings and for joys and concerns during the service. The First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana, PA is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are a network of self-governing congregations united in a web of mutuality that creates our denomination. We require neither creed nor doctrine, but instead teach that all individuals have both the right and the responsibility to discern and follow their own paths. We come together to support and assist each other on our personal journeys and to build our beloved community together. If you're on Zoom, please stay after the service. We will open up the microphone for coffee hour following the service so that people can check in about how they're feeling and what's on their minds. And now, I invite you to take a breath and settle yourself into a spirit of worship.
And so, as we gather, just before we all settle into that lovely spirit of worship, I'm going to take the time for just a couple of announcements. I think when Tina recorded that video, she probably didn't know that it was going to be our video almost weekly for the next 6 or 8 weeks. So I would love to do a few new worship recordings so that we can broaden our field of people who we see on Sundays. Whether you're from Indiana, Ligonier, or visiting us from elsewhere, if you are interested in helping out by being one of the people who is in our worship services each week by recording, please reach out by email to let me know that that is something that you would be willing to do. I hope to get those done in this next week so that we can see you this summer. As Don Lancaster noted at the beginning of our service, there is a protest today at 2 p.m. in IRMC Park. And I hope that you will be joining us to remember George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many more Black people who have suffered from the violence happening at the hands of police in these times. Please do come, feel welcome to bring signs, wear masks, and make sure that you social distance not only while you're there, but on the way in and on the way out. I do hope you'll join us if you're able, and if you're not, I will understand that as well. Another note is that solar power is now happening at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana, PA. The panels are up. I would love to celebrate with you. If you'd like to come out and join me on the grass in the side yard of the church on Saturday at 5 p.m., please feel welcome to do so. Bring a lawn chair or a blanket to sit on and your mask. This is bring your own whatever you would like. Picnic, foods, beverages. If you want to bring a guitar or a ukulele and offer some music, that would be fabulous. Perhaps no wind instruments, even outdoors. That seems like a poor plan for avoiding spreading disease to one another. But do come and join us and be in fellowship if from a distance. It will be lovely to see all of your faces outdoors. Again, 5 p.m. on Saturday evening. So once again, let's take a breath. Our call to worship is by Norbert Čapek, the original creator of the flower communion ceremony. Čapek writes, "It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals. Oh, blow ye evil winds into my body's fire, my soul you'll never unravel. Even though disappointed 1,000 times, or fallen in the fight, and everything would worthless seem, I have lived amidst eternity. Be grateful, my soul. My life was worth living. Was pressed from all sides, but remained victorious. With spirit, he is welcomed into the choir of heroes. He who overcame the fetters, giving wing to the mind, is entering into the golden age of the victorious. I'd like to just remind you all that though I do leave you with the power to unmute yourself, it is your duty to use your power responsibly in this world. So please do leave yourself on mute throughout the service. If you have a chalice or a candle, this would be the time to light its flame. You can type "the flame is lit" and where you're coming from in the chat bar. Our chalice lighting words come from Amy Zucker Morgenstern. You may speak them with me if you like. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty. Within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. Holy, holy, holy. And our time for all ages is Frederick by Leo Leone.
Good morning. I will be reading the book Frederick by Leo Leone. I know many of you know this story and may be thinking, isn't that story about the seasons and winter approaching? It is. I feel that it actually is a good story for us to reflect on today. I'm not sure about you all, but the 3 months we have had to social distance ourselves, staying in our homes, without little community other than virtual, but having to continue through the day-to-day. Many of us still working and going to school or getting kids through school, continuing to cook and clean and do yard maintenance, but all without community and the beauty of community. It all seems bleak. And then in this past week, many of us emerged from our isolation to pour into the streets to demand justice for Black lives, still unable to do it as a UU community, as we would have done at a different time in history. I feel isolated, alone, and much seems bleak. But today is Flower Communion, where we as UUs usually come together to celebrate and recognize the beauty of us as individuals in our community and the beauty of our community as a whole, supporting, uplifting, giving, and caring for each other. In the bleakness of winter, we often need to be reminded of the beautiful things that give us promise and hope and tie us together. As I read this story, please keep those thoughts in mind. Frederick by Leo Leone. All along the meadow where the cows grazed and the horses ran, there was an old stone wall. In that wall, not far from the barn and the granary, a chatty family of field mice had their home. But the farmers had moved away, and the barn was abandoned, and the granary stood empty. And since winter was not far off, the little mice began to gather corn and nuts and wheat and straw, and they all worked day and night, except for Frederick. Frederick, why don't you work? They asked. I do work, said Frederick. I gather sun rays for the cold, dark winter days. And when they saw Frederick sitting there staring at the meadow, they said, "And now, Frederick?" "I gather colors," answered Frederick simply, "for winter is gray." And once Frederick seemed half asleep. "Are you dreaming, Frederick?" they asked reproachfully. But Frederick said, "Oh, no, I'm gathering words, for the winter days are long and many, and we'll run out of things to say." The winter days came, and when the first snow fell, the 5 little mice took to their hideouts in the stones. In the beginning, there was lots to eat, and the mice told stories of foolish foxes and little silly cats. They were a happy family, but little by little, they had nibbled up most of the nuts and berries, and straw was gone, and the corn was only a memory. It was cold in the wall, and no one felt like chatting. Then they remembered what Frederick had said about sun rays and colors and words. "What about your supplies, Frederick?" they asked. "Close your eyes," said Frederick as he climbed on a big stone. "Now I send you the rays of the sun. Do you feel how they're golden glow?" And as Frederick spoke of the sun, the 4 little mice began to feel warmer. Was it Frederick's voice? Was it magic? "And how about the colors, Frederick?" they asked anxiously. "Close your eyes again," Frederick said. And when he told them of the blue periwinkles and the red poppies and the yellow wheat and the green leaves, the berry bush, they saw the colors as clearly as if they had been painted in their minds. "And the words, Frederick?" Frederick cleared his throat and waited a moment. Then, as if from a stage, he said, "Who scatters snowflakes? Who melts the ice? Who spoils the weather? Who makes it nice? Who grows the 4-leaf clovers in June? Who dims the daylight? Who lights the moon? 4 little field mice who live in the sky. 4 little field mice like you and I. One in the spring mouse who turns on the showers. Then comes the summer who paints in the flowers. The fall mouse is next with walnuts and wheat, and winter is last with little cold feet. Aren't we lucky the seasons are 4? Think of a year with 1 less or 1 more." When Frederick had finished, they all applauded. "But Frederick," they said, "you are a poet." Frederick blushed, took a bow, and said shyly, "I know it."
Thank you, Penny, and thank you, Frederick. It has been kind of that long, cold winter. And any time when times are hard, it can be important, especially then, to remember that we are in community, that we have gifts to share with one another, and that beauty is still all around us when we may not be able to see it. So now I would like to ask you to take a moment and pass the peace. You might type a blessing in the chat, like peace be with you, namaste, shalom, bright blessings, or any other blessing you care to share today. May you all be filled with peace and joy and the blessings of community. Our music for centering today is a song called "It Is Enough." It uses Christian language because it was written by a member of, I believe, the Episcopal Church. All of our music today is by Black musicians. We made this choice intentionally in solidarity with what is going on in our world and with the requests of Unitarian Universalist religious professionals of color who have asked us especially to focus on Black voices in this time. So as you listen, go ahead and type any joys or sorrows you wish to share in the chat bar.
That can contain the depth of sorrow, grief, and pain that mothers, sons, and all exclaim, Kyrie eleison. It is enough, the prophets cry, yet still Black men are doomed to die by those who wish to vilify. Kyrie eleison. It is enough, the harm must cease from warring madness by police who are sworn to protect, keep peace. Kyrie eleison. It is enough, we cannot wait. No more excuse for bias, hate. Your savagery we cannot take. Christe eleison. It is enough, we cannot breathe. Will you stand there and watch us bleed? Are you not moved by cries and pleas? Christe eleison. No, no more death, it is enough. No more dead sons, it is enough. No, no more tears for lives cut short. Christe eleison. Oh, my soul, it aches and yearns for a day when Depth of wounds our souls sustain each time a grieving heart exclaims, Kyrie eleison.
Today, I am not sure I have a prayer more powerful than what you have just heard. So may I say simply, Amen. Our UU moment today is the story of the Flower Communion. The Flower Communion service is an annual tradition in many Unitarian and Universalist congregations and has been since 1923, when Dr. Norbert Čapek began to celebrate it in the modern Unitarian movement in Czechoslovakia. In his Unitarian church in Prague, all the children and adults were encouraged to bring forth the beauty of spring, to bring not bread and wine, which so many ex-Catholics had trouble divorcing from the idea of the Catholic communion ritual, but to celebrate together the diversity of human community. This ritual, even today, gives concrete expression to the humanity affirming principles of our liberal faith. The communion became an annual celebration and was so until 1940, when the Nazi Party took control of Czechoslovakia, of Prague in particular. They believed that Dr. Čapek's gospel of the inherent worth and dignity and the beauty of all human people made him a danger to the Nazi Party and to the increasing fascist government. His court records say, quote, he was too dangerous to the Reich to be allowed to live. Dr. Čapek was sent to Dachau and died during a Nazi medical experiment while there. Though he suffered a terrible and cruel death, his message of human hope and decency lives on, even to this day. Most Unitarian Universalist churches celebrate the flower communion or flower ceremony every single year. And this meaning-filled ritual reminds us that even in the moments when human life is snuffed out, ideas, beauty, creativity, and love carry on. I now invite you to join with me as we read aloud our Unitarian Universalist principles. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote these principles. We have made a shorter version because for multi-generational congregations and communities, it is easier to read and also on Zoom. Please join with me in reading. We honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Practice justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Accept one another and encourage spiritual growth. Support the freedom to search for what is true and right in life. Ensure that all have a voice about matters that concern them. Work for a peaceful, fair, and free world, and care for planet Earth, the home we share with all living things. At this time in our service, we invite your giving. If you can send or bring by a check to the church, that is a wonderful way to pay your pledge. If you would like to give online, our PayPal is linked through office@firstuu-indianapa.org. Each and every Sunday, we give to the work of this congregation and also to a community service or organization beyond our congregation. This month, the recipient of that generosity is the Chevy Chase Community Center. We hope you will give generously, knowing that you support their work as well as our own. They have been instrumental in increasing food security across Indiana in these troubled times.
We are here today because Black Lives Matter. We know the truth and say their name. We reject the tide of police violence. To get free, we'll do what it takes. We are here today because Black Lives Matter. We know the truth and say their names. We reject the tide of police violence. To get free, we'll do what it takes.
Tell your story. As the music ends, I recall those words and note how powerful it is when we change the narrative. How powerful it is when we do just that. Tell our stories, live our values, be what we wish to see in the world, making sure that there is no room for hate. Several years back, as I was just starting seminary, a young man named Michael Brown was shot and killed on the streets of Ferguson by a police officer. The details of the encounter are hard, yet they are nearly meaningless, not because they are not true or that they do not matter, but because they are one of many, many stories in which Black lives are assumed to be dangerous lives, in which Black young men are assumed to be dangerous people. It is a narrative that is common in our society, and it is one that endangers people. When we celebrate Flower Communion, we are celebrating the diversity of human community. We don't celebrate to honor the death of flowers, but to promote their life, their beauty. And so it is with people. We amplify the diversity of human community and commit to protect, to honor, to help them thrive. In Ferguson, after the death of Michael Brown, people with first aid and medical experience were asked to please come in order to support the protests. So I did. I met a minister named Osagyefo Sekou, and Reverend Sekou was a pillar of the movement, bridging the space between religious organizations and those on the streets, young, often angry or sad, living in communities that did not encourage religious expression. And Reverend Sekou was willing to be in that space, not to change people's minds, but to amplify their voices, to help them be heard in the church, and to help the gospel of his church, the Jesus that turns tables, the Jesus that stands on a mountaintop and preaches to thousands, the Jesus who rejected capitalism and honored generous giving, to promote that gospel in the streets and in politics. Now, when I knew Reverend Sekou first, he had been steeped in the average liberal church. He was committed to the protests and yet denounced those he saw as bad actors, those who were not committed to a fully peaceful protest, those who got in the faces of police while yelling, those who perhaps broke something or lit something on fire, or tried to pull a protester away while that person was in danger of arrest or was being arrested. He thought those kinds of things incite further violence. And then, so many of us and the Reverend Sekou went to Charlottesville. In Charlottesville, again, medics and people from religious organizations and from all manner of organizations across the country were asked to come. Please do not let white nationalism swell without resistance, was the plea. And again, people showed up. And in that space, the very anarchists, agitators, Black Bloc, who had been so thrown to the side in the movement previously, they showed up. And what's more, they put their bodies courageously in between actively violent white supremacists and people of color, again and again and again. Reverend Sekou said, literally, anarchists saved my life in Charlottesville. And I say this all from the pulpit, not to say, hey, stop making anarchists seem bad, but to say this is a powerful moment in which people who have believed many different things in many different ways are showing common compassion, are building bridges, are banding together to make sure that violence in the world is not something that is acceptable or okay, that compassion is the binding thread through all of these people in all of these places, in all of these movements. Flowers are beautiful and delicate, but they are also bringers of life. They are powerful. Think of your pollen allergies, those who have them. Flowers can do so much. They are what make the next generation come into being. And so I'd like to share with you a slideshow that is accompanied by music which Reverend Sekou wrote and composed. And I will apologize for the the branding tag. I didn't want to pay extra to get rid of it.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we already won. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we've already won.
May it be so. When we stand up, we've already won. And that is how we win. We win by multiplying, like flowers bursting forth from the grass. We win by sharing beauty, even in the face of horror. We win because beautiful and creative responses are more powerful than any force on earth. In becoming a community together, in sharing the beloved community, in spreading ourselves like the beauty of flowers, we transform the world. We can spread our stories about what the world could look like, whether as bedtime stories, in conversations with friends, as essays, poems, art pieces, beautiful paintings, sculptures, or in the human energy created in a protest or a vigil or a performance piece. We can share our compassion in the world, tending gardens literal and metaphorical. The infinite beauty that we dream into the world. This is the revolution that we hope to see. This is the beloved community we hope to build. I would like to take a moment now to move into gallery view. If you have your flower, or if you just want to show your faces, this is a moment for sharing the beauty, the diversity, all of the blessing of the gathered community here. Take a moment to look around. Take a moment to see one another. Your lives are the blessing. What a time to be alive. What a time to be gathered with one another. What a time for a revolution of hope and of caring. You are all beautiful and beloved. I hope you know that. So blessed be. Our closing music is actually 2 songs. The first is called I Can't Breathe. It's a protest song that I heard first on the streets of Ferguson. The second is called I'm Good Enough. And I want you to notice and honor the juxtaposition and the reality of both. Both things are true in this world. And yet, like a flower growing through the cracks in a sidewalk or a dry desert, we are enough, even in the face of horror.
I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. So now I'm in the struggle singing, I can't leave. We calling out the violence of these racist police. And we ain't gonna stop till our people are free. And we ain't gonna stop till our people are free. I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. So now I'm in the struggle singing, I can't leave. We calling out the violence of these racist police. And we ain't gonna stop till our people are free. We ain't gonna stop till our people are free. I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. So now I'm in the struggle singing, I can't leave. We calling out the violence of these racist police. And we ain't gonna stop till our people are free. We ain't gonna stop till our people are free.
I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. Now I'm in the struggle singing, I can't leave. Calling out the violence of these racist police.
My hands are strong enough, they're strong enough, and I'm good enough. My hands are strong enough to give love. I know that my arms are long enough, they're long enough, I'm good enough. My arms are long enough to give love. I know that my heart is wide enough, it's wide enough, I'm good enough. My heart is wide enough to give love. I know that my light is bright enough, it's bright enough, I'm good enough. My light is bright enough to give love. And my heart is wide enough to give love. I know that my arms are long enough to give love. My hands are strong enough to give love.
We extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And here we close. May this sanctuary, this congregation, be a place that makes you resilient, that helps you to reawaken your creative impulse. May this space be a place of respite, one that reminds you of the beauty of the world, even in hard times. May this space be a resting place to pause and reflect. Yet may this sanctuary not be a place to stagnate or a place to be done, to lay your burdens down forever. Instead, may it be a place to share our burdens for the journey ahead. For this journey is long, and yet we know that it is a road we must travel. As long as we are together, our ability to bring beauty and love and compassion is infinitely great. We hold all the possibility of a blooming flower about to bring a new generation to birth. Blessed be. And as you go on your week, may you be held in that power of community. Amen. If you would like to stay for coffee hour, you are very welcome to do so. We'll set up some breakout rooms. If you are from Ligonier, I see one person has already let me know that they're from Ligonier. Just type Ligonier into the chat bar and that'll help me sort you into your own breakout room. Once again, thank you so much, one and all. Your presence, your sharing, your helping one another to bring flowers, even though we are not able to be together, is all a reminder of the blessing we are to one another.